Over the last 3 seasons, the two main parts of the Seattle Mariners have gone in polar opposite directions. And by two main parts, I mean simply the hitting and pitching, because that's how baseball works. Only on iTALK Studios you can get this advanced analysis. You're welcome. When the Mariners made the playoffs in 2022, the first time they made it in 21 freaking years, breaking the longest drought in sports, the pitching was really good. The hitting wasn't really good, but it wasn't bad either. It was like your average MCU movie, slightly above mid. But like I said, the pitching and hitting have continued to move up and down respectively. After having the 8th best ERA in all of baseball in 2022, that went up to 3rd best in 2023 and then 2nd best in 2024. As for the hitting, the Mariners had the 13th best OPS in 2022. That dropped to 16th in 2023 and then fell 6 more spots last year to the 22nd best offense in baseball, basically. And they also forgot the rules a lot in 2024. A lot of Mariners hitters forgot you're allowed to make contact with the baseball when at the plate, and that happened a lot, unfortunately, as they led all of baseball in strikeouts and had a batting average that rivaled that of the White Sox. So the Mariners have a clear problem as to why the team overall has been regressing for a few years now, and well, the season ended 3 months ago, meaning there's been about 3 months of the offseason. It's now officially 2025, so what have the Mariners done so far to improve? Really quick, as always, if you're part of the 59% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as yeah, Danny O'Donohue said it. The Mariners have done jack shit to improve their roster this offseason, particularly with their offense, which is obviously where the biggest black hole lies. Now, rewind the clock back a little over a year. The Mariners had just finished 2023 in a disappointing way after what was supposed to be a year to build off of 2022, and the Mariners general manager, Jerry Dipoto, went up in front of the media with a straight face and said in many ways this season was a step in the right direction, and then dropped his infamous 54% comment that the number one goal is to shoot for about 54% of your games to win that much, and by that mentality you should be consistently good over a long stretch of years. He later walked back these comments, but we all know what he meant, and that he and the team meant it, because he didn't even need to say those comments for them to be crystal clear. Actions speak much louder than words, and the way the Mariners have always operated, especially now, proves that they're a franchise content with not going all in and being the best, but rather good enough and maybe they'll go all the way one year. That's kind of how they operate. But it's kind of hard to go all the way when the franchise refuses to make the necessary moves to make such a thing happen. Now, I've mentioned before the obvious, people like to pick extremes with everything, meaning, for example, if a team is cheap, they should spend a ton of money instead, and that's not true. Are the Mariners cheap? Have they decided to not make certain moves that would obviously be good for the team because it would cost a little more? Yes, but the solution to this isn't to start operating like the Mets. They don't need to go after Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, and Alex Bregman, but to go after one of those guys would be ideal, or some free agent bats. The last big free agent hitter they signed was Robinson Cano, and that was like 12 years ago. Julio Rodriguez has a big contract that is structured to be a lot bigger if he reaches certain incentives, but he was always a Mariner, so you can't really count that. I mean, it's a good thing for them to do, to lock up their youngest, most promising hitter, but as far as getting outside help, the Mariners haven't done much. The Mariners' own players even literally said that after they missed the postseason in 2023. Cal Raleigh blatantly said the team should have gotten them more help before being talked to by the team, and later addressing those comments, although the players had his back. JP Crawford publicly made it clear he understood. And in 2024, the Mariners' offense was dreadful. And what made it even more frustrating was the little competition they had in their own division. If the Mariners had somewhat of a competent offense last year, they would have easily won the division over Houston. I mean, they even had a 10-game lead at one point for first place, but thanks to their offense hitting like me and MLB The Show, the Astros were able to win the division with 88 wins before being exposed as a nothing burger in the playoffs anyway by Detroit. That was the leader of the AL West. That was your king. While all the Mariners could do was watch themselves miss out on the postseason for the 2nd straight year because they couldn't hit. It's no secret at this point that the Mariners have an awesome pitching staff, and specifically the starting rotation. I mean, it's beyond incredible. They literally have 5 pitchers who you can argue would be aces on most other teams in baseball if they weren't in Seattle. Logan Gilbert led all of baseball in innings with a 3.23 ERA. George Kirby also made 33 starts with a 3.53 ERA. Bryce Miller, in just his 2nd big league season, threw 180 innings with a 2.94 ERA. Luis Castillo made 30 starts with a 3.64 ERA, and Brian Wu, also in just his 2nd season, like Bryce Miller, was great. 22 starts with a 2.89 ERA. Think about all that. You're lucky if you have 2 starters with numbers like these. The Mariners had 5 of them. 5 strong starters, and 4 of those 5 starters are in their 20s. Luis Castillo is the oldest of the bunch at 31, which isn't even old, but he's the oldest. The Mariners have gold with their starting pitching. They really do, yet they continue to waste it. Nobody's expecting the Mariners to somehow build their offense into a top 5 offense in baseball. Even if they got great hitters, they'd be bound to regress, because Seattle has proven to be a place hitting can go to die a lot. It's like the Rockies expecting every pitcher to have their best years in Colorado. The way nature works in certain areas is just something you can't prevent. But what the Mariners can do, even with the tough hitting environment that they're in, is simply become better. If they can at least become a mid-tier offense, maybe a little above mid, with this pitching staff, my God, the results would be generational. But forget the heavy hitters still on the market, like Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman. The reality is the Mariners can't even get 39-year-old Carlos Santana, someone they offered a 1-year deal with an option for a 2nd year, only for Santana to pick Cleveland. And if that doesn't say depression, I don't know what does. A 39-year-old first baseman at the end of his career picking Cleveland over potentially more money with you tells you everything. Not that it would be much money for the Mariners anyway. It's not like they're offering that much more money or something crazy. Carlos Santana, he's obviously past his prime, way past it, but still, even when they open their pockets at least a little bit, it doesn't seem to go well. But the Mariners have been and continue to waste the good that they have, because it's more than just them not improving while they have valuable players on their team. The window is even quicker than when they become free agents. Let's start with the few good pieces they have on offense. Julio Rodriguez. His contract gets more expensive starting this year. Last year, he made about $12 million. That jumps up to $19 in 2025. And moving forward, and depending on how he does, it can be more. Cal Raleigh, the team's best hitter last year, is only going to get more expensive because of arbitration, meaning he'll be continuing to earn money more comparable to what he's actually worth instead of the league minimum of under $1 million, even though he doesn't become a free agent for another 3 seasons. He's still going to be getting more money each year. Oh, and all those pitchers you have, mostly for little money because of how young they are, well, that's only going to rise in cost too. As long as Logan Gilbert and George Kirby stay afloat, their stock will only rise. And then the same goes for Brian Wu and Bryce Miller, who are only making $800,000 in 2025, but will also start making a lot more than that, obviously, once they become arbitration eligible. So the Mariners not taking advantage of this current greatness they have for certain spots on the team is really not ideal. The window keeps getting smaller and smaller, and they're going nowhere because they refuse to add any true thump to the offense, to get any help where it really matters most, even if it costs a couple more bucks. A popular take has been for the Mariners to trade one of their starters to add hitting. And I mean, yeah, considering they have 5 whole starting pitchers that are really good, you'd prefer not to get rid of any of them. But they have the rare luxury of being able to part ways with one of them in order to improve where you need to most, offensively. And Luis Castillo has been the main name rumored to be moved, but who knows if that happens. The Mariners have been reportedly open to making this happen, but have also been reportedly frustrated with the trade offers they've gotten, specifically one they recently turned down that came from Boston. The Red Sox have been trying to improve their starting pitching situation this offseason, which they have, but they've also been heavily rumored to want one of the Mariners guys, and it came out that the Red Sox were willing to trade first baseman Tristan Casas to Seattle for Luis Castillo, but it came with a catch. They also wanted Seattle to take on all of Masataka Yoshida's contract in the deal. The Red Sox have been seemingly very down on Yoshida lately. He's worth about $18.5 million for each of the next 3 years and is really just a DH at this point. He doesn't provide any defense, especially when the Red Sox have all the stronger options they have defensively out there. So you're just banking on him being worth that money for a DH, which they don't feel he is. I like Yoshida, I really do, but I can understand where they're coming from, and I think it's less about really Yoshida specifically and more about how the Red Sox are built right now. Yoshida is a good player that could help really any team. He just doesn't really fit the current way the Red Sox roster specifically is built and being built. So they seem desperate to get his contract off the books, and asking the Mariners to take on a contract like that seems like a lot to ask, although I could see it working. I mean, is Yoshida probably overpaid for what he is, just being a designated hitter? Yeah, probably. But he's still a bat who's shown a lot of promise at the big league level, while you also get Tristan Casas, another bat who's also shown a lot of promise. You're getting 2 bats for Castillo and getting his contract off the books in the process. But the $18.5 million a year really isn't ideal either, especially for who you're giving it to. A guy who you don't really care to play defense. And because of that, the trade won't work, and it continues to look like an offseason without any improvement for the Mariners. If anything, they've gotten worse. They can say whatever they want about how the 54% comments were taken out of context, or that they don't value mediocrity and want to be the best, but you can only pee on fans' legs and tell them it's raining for so long. Shout out Judge Judy. The way the Mariners operate and continue to operate shows they are pretty okay with going nowhere incredibly fast. And until that changes, you're banking on a whole lot to go right for the world to finally see a World Series be played in Seattle. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.